You guys are in for a heck of a long series. I just filled a 4-hour SD card on this adventure. So, and we're still going. People sure talk loud. So I have bogarted the island. There's a man and his little boy over there. I think it might be a grandpa and his little boy. They were talking about coming to the island, and then they spotted me and kept going. This dude was talking about coming over to the island, and they just spotted me. He's got some kind of kayak thing. He's laying down on it. What the heck is that guy doing?
So the good news is,
Can you hear him? It's hard not to.
I can rest. Yep, it worked.
He's using an air mattress. That's actually pretty cool.
Brilliant idea.
The guy's using his air mattress to float in the water. I always wondered if those floated.
Whatever.
He found out they do.
Okay, I don't even need a pole. If I see a fish, I'm just gonna stab it.
Whatever, dude. Alright. Anyway, still much better than a bunch of Boy Scouts. I gotta figure out my situation here. So it may be a little noisy with conversation around here, but I'm okay with it because it's not a bunch of kids targeting me. And I just had a conversation with that guy. He said he always wondered if an air mattress would work as a raft. And apparently it does. He said it was a short enough hike that he felt like hoofing it up here just to find out. So he carried this heavy air mattress up here. I've got one that fits in my car. If I lay all the seats down, it fills up the back of my car. I haven't used it in a very long time, but every time I get on one of those, I think, I wonder if this would float. That's why he brought it up here. Anyway, so I said, well, now we both know it works, and I don't have to try it. Because if he takes a spill, if that valve gives way or something, he's actually a really funny guy. This is kind of people I don't mind, you know. I'm not having rocks thrown at me. I'm not worried about being watched or anything by everybody walking by. This is actually very private. It is kind of a draw, like the cave was. One of all these people here seem to be together in one big family group. They seem like a really nice family. And one little kid started coming over to the island, and then he saw me and walked off. And that was it. And I don't care. I mean, he seems like a nice little boy. He looks like he's about Dylan and Jude's age. You know, totally different experience. Even if there are people here, I'm going to have a much more relaxing and peaceful experience here. And I'll try to make it seem as isolated as possible. But the dude on the air raft is pretty loud. He's yelling to his whole family and giving them a play-by-play of it. He's got a fishing pole. Let's hope he doesn't hook it. He's literally using a stick as an oar and a fishing pole in the other hand, and he's watching the water, saying, I don't see any fish yet. It's freaking hilarious. That guy's funny. He's entertaining his whole family over here. They're all standing on the shore just watching him in bewilderment. Those are the kind of memories you want to leave with your kids. Remember that time Dad got on an air mattress and used it as a raft? And right now, all I've got up is my hammock, and it's between two of the thickest green trees, far enough apart that I could find. They're supposed to be 6 inches around and about 12 to 15 feet apart. These are more like 4 inches around and maybe 10 feet apart, but it was enough to stretch out and take a load off my back, carrying that backpack and sleeping on the air mattress on the ground. I'm half tempted. My overquilt that I'm using is actually an underquilt for hammock, and I've used it. I used it at the Hayden Lake trip a couple of trips ago, and it's really warm. You attach it to this and it goes underneath and it holds all your body heat in, because when you sleep in a hammock you lose all your body heat out the bottom, so it holds that in. And I could cover myself with my jungle blanket and my pillow and sleep under the stars. The only problem with that is I have no shelter from the elements should a thunderstorm roll in. I have no privacy. Well, it's pretty private right here. I'll give you a tour in a little bit, but I want to rest first. So I'm tempted to sleep in this, but I don't think so. And when I sat down in this hammock, as high up as I strung it, it sunk almost, I'm probably only a foot from the ground, which is not my usual height. I usually am a good couple feet off the ground. So hopefully, I mean, they're green trees, so they're not going to snap. There's a bigger tree right over here, but it's really dead. And I don't want to put any stress on it that it doesn't need. I don't need to have a tree fall on me in the middle of the woods. People have died by sleeping in a tent and a tree falls right on their tent. Or hammock camping, same thing. They hook it to the wrong tree and end up pulling it down with their body weight. Hopefully these two little young pine trees, or spruces, they're spruces. Hopefully they will hold me up. And I'm just going to put my feet up and relax now. Let these people have their fun with their air mattress. This is better than TV. That guy cracks me up. He's funny. A little bit bouncy, but it'll do. That's heaven. That's the most comfortable my back's been in a few days. The sun is starting to kind of peek through this pine tree a little bit, so I have to keep these on. It's mostly shady here. I think the sun's gonna go right over the top of this hammock. But eventually, by the time it's time to crawl in the tent or, you know, really relax in the evening, it'll be far behind Mount Watson back there. Here's my view out the left side of my hammock. Here's my view out the right side of my hammock. There's no fish in this part that I can see. If there are, they're not very active. A lot of people coming up on the trail way over there. There are dogs playing in the water. I went ahead and set up my tent because I kept hearing people over here on the trail. Hey, that island looks like a cool place to camp. They were leaving from Clyde Lake, but I wanted to make it clear, should anyone wonder, that this is taken. Because where I am in the hammock, you can't really see me. I'm kind of hidden in the trees, even with my bright blue hammock. But the tent, there's no mistaking from the trail. Or from the other side of the lake, or the other side of the island, or, you know, anywhere else. You can see the red really well. So it's set up, but I haven't like put everything in it or staked out the vestibules. It's just there so that it's seen. And I was wrong about the fish over here. They are jumping here and there. It's really shallow water, but they're in there, and I've seen a couple jump out this way. So there's fish here. The guy just couldn't see him from his viewpoint on the raft. Anyway, I just overheard that family talking about their plans to pack up and head out. This is the first time ever that I've done a solo 4-day, 3-night thing. So there you have it. This is camp. It's not It's not super elaborate, but I've got an island to myself. I wish I could have a campfire. That would be extra cozy. I don't know what the bug situation's going to be like, but so far my whole experience up here has been pretty mild. The worst that the mosquitoes were was Wall Lake that first night down by the water, and it wasn't horrible, and the bug spray ended it. So the nice thing about having a fire is the smoke keeps the bugs away. Hopefully I haven't been too off-putting on this trip. My complaints about the crazy youngsters. I'm tired. I didn't sleep well because of those kids, and I have a headache still. It hasn't quite gone away. So I'm gonna lay here and doze. Kind of watch and see if this family leaves soon. So it should quiet down because they're kind of all spread out and they're all together. Alright, I'll come back in a little bit. Well, one thing's to be said about coming somewhere you've not come before is you learn what works and what doesn't work for you. That family that, you know, the guy with the raft, they're hiking out now. That's not them, that guy. But they just hiked out of these trees. And I'm not sure, but I think that family that was camped over there left, and there's a fisherman over that way. The only problem I have now, as far as solitude goes, is right along the trail, a whole bunch of people are hiking in, a whole bunch of people are hiking out. And they're all stopping to have loud conversations with one another. And that group of boys that was throwing rocks at my camp last night, they all just left. They didn't see me here, but I watched them walk out. And right over here, there are 2 or 3 people. They set their packs down right on the bank, but they haven't unpacked anything. And that's not a campsite. So I'm hoping they don't get any bright ideas. Not because I don't, that I have a problem with them camping there, but there are 2 reasons. One, it's not a campsite. Don't make a new campsite where there isn't a campsite. It's not how this works. That's how you ruin the wilderness. It's a little at a time. And 2, they have a dog. They have 2 dogs over there. One of them, the dog's name is Luna. How do I know this? Luna, come here. Luna, stay. Luna, go back over there. Luna, listen to me. Luna, go in the water. Luna, come here for a minute. There's a female over there that just keeps saying Luna, 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 Luna. And it's making me loony. I used to have a neighbor years ago that had a dog named Shiloh. I was living in an apartment building. Shiloh, come. Shiloh, stay. Shiloh, shut up. Shiloh. Every day. My older boys were young then, and they still talk about it. They still, Shiloh, come. Shiloh, stay. You know what I'm talking about, Ash and Murphy. Shiloh. It wasn't the dog that was annoying. It was the person that wouldn't stop saying Shiloh. And I'm having the same experience with Luna. So I don't have a problem with the people. Okay, here's what I've learned from this trip. This is a highly popular area. I didn't know that when I came up here. When I camped at Cliff Lake 4 years ago, I had it to myself. Except for one other group, and they were very quiet and respectful. This is insane. What appears to be a peaceful, quiet lake of solitude, a wonderful retreat, is just loaded with people coming and going on the trail, and generally just being loud and obnoxious. Hey, look, there's Luna. Luna, come over here, she just said. Luna, come over here. For some reason, the other dog doesn't have a name and doesn't have any behavioral problems, but only Luna does. Anyway, I'm hoping they're just taking a break. I don't care. Let your dogs play in the water, have some fun, come up here, get away from it all. Stop saying Luna. God, I don't say Bob that much. Anyway, it's just making me a little bonkers. The other problem I have is I have to pee really bad. And every time I think I've found a spot to pee, someone walks by on the trail or someone's over there. If you look around this island, there's only so many clusters of trees that I can walk over and pee in without going for a hike to do it. I mean, if I were a woman, I would have to go for a hike to do it, but I'm not. I could pee right here, but I can't because there are people everywhere. They're loud and they're obnoxious, and this was left behind. Another problem with a popular area. Bunch of beer cans, beer bottle caps, wrappers, a whole bunch of stuff that I've gathered up that I'll be packing out. Apparently, whoever was here didn't think it was worth packing out. I can tell you this from this whole experience. Wall Lake, the accidental camp out that we had, was the best part of this whole journey. The rest of it has been a fight. Sorry, I got interrupted by Luna. This has been a fight for privacy and for solitude and for peace and relaxation and a constant... See what I mean? It's just constant people everywhere, and the whole reason I come up to the Uintas is to get away from people because it's so big and vast, but somehow in this area in particular, the Clyde Lake Trail is incredibly popular and has made this camp out. I was laying in my hammock, relaxing, shutting my eyes. Luna, come here. Luna, stay. Luna. I couldn't lay there anymore. So I've started setting up camp. I've got my bedding in my tent. Hoping that these guys are just stopping for the time being. Yeah, it looks like they're putting their backpacks on. But the problem is, it's Saturday, right? It's Saturday, and all these people are going to be coming in, going out. It's a popular transition day. And having not ever been up here, I didn't realize just how popular it was. So, lesson learned on this adventure. Take a different trail next time. I know where I'm going next time. It's already up here. It'll be just an overnighter, but it'll be a heck of a lot more peaceful and relaxing than this has been. And I'm sorry, I've complained so much in this series, but it's not... You know, I could have stayed home and had more solitude in my backyard. My neighbors mind their own business, and I have a hammock back there. I have my dogs. Could have slept in my bed, but I wanted to be out in this and share it with you guys. I was so excited about this, but this whole trip has been mired in difficulty related to people. Not animals, not nature, but people. So, I think Luna is on his or her way out of here. They are. They've got their packs on. They've picked them up. Poor Luna. I feel sorry for that dog. I use one-word commands with my dog and they listen to me. Bob, no. Come here, lay down. Lay down. My favorite thing that she said was, Luna, listen to me. Have you ever told a dog to listen to you and had that dog know what that means? Dogs don't understand, listen to me. Anyway, I sure have listened to her. Stop my bitching, I swear. I'm so bad at this on this outing, but you know, I don't get a break away from the world for this many days in a row very often. And I feel like I just picked the wrong place. Hopefully, the rest of this outing will be good. We still have tonight. We still have part of tomorrow, hiking back to the car after this. But I don't know, guys. Not too excited about this outing. I may never come up here again. Okay, Luna and company have left. They're heading down the trail. That family, I can see their backpacks. They're hiking out. The other half of them, anyway. It's quieting down. The only person I can see now is a lone fisherman way over there on the bank. That's it. Just him. He's just sitting really still. I thought he might be a fly fisherman, but I think he's bait fishing, which is my thing that I like to do. Anyway, my bed is all set up. It looks nice and comfy, doesn't it? Look at that. I would sleep here. I'm going to, in fact. And my hammock's right here. If we get thunderstorms like yesterday, my hammock will get nice and wet, but at least I've got my tent and I'm not sleeping in a cave. Welcome to Utah Steve Island. It's very rocky. Like right here is nice and smooth, but as soon as you get out here, it's just rock city. What really annoys me too, oh no, I'm never gonna stop, am I? I'm usually not like this. But that was a fire pit that someone used, and then they made another fire pit. Why? Why do we need for 2 fire pits? Anyway, farewell to that family, farewell to Luna, and here's hoping that tonight is absolutely wonderful, peaceful, and beautiful here at Watson Lake.
So I climbed in the tent because of a bit of a cool breeze and it's really toasty in here. And I just want you to listen to this for a few minutes. Does this sound like I'm in the Uinta Mountains, far away from the things of man? Does this sound like a peaceful getaway? What it sounds like to me is walking through a mall, listening to people shop. If you like crowds, and you're coming up here for the sole purpose of meeting people, then by all means, take this trail. If you're coming up here for peace and quiet, like I did, run the other way. I thought when I left the cave that I would escape this, but you know, there's only so many places to camp away from the trail. This entire trail from the parking lot all the way up has been insane, except when I took the wrong trail and went down to Wall Lake. That was one of the most peaceful outings I can imagine. I got a fly in here. I left my zipper open. Get out of here. I'll catch you. Anyway, you can hear what I'm dealing with, hopefully, and why it's frustrating to me. There are a lot of people up here, and it's become so crowded. The Uintas didn't used to be like this. I feel like I'm downtown at home, listening to people talk. The only thing missing is the sound of traffic. I think the fly left. No, he didn't. Anyway, this has been constant. I've been laying here trying to shut my eyes. You know, I didn't sleep well last night because there were kids throwing rocks in the water and keeping me awake 2 different times. The second time I didn't even bother to film. Yay! Camping. I'm determined to see this trip through till tomorrow. That was my plan. I'm so tempted to just pack my stuff and go home to my quiet house. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stick this out, and if anything comes from this video, it will be lessons learned about where not to go, to do my research a little better on how popular a place is before I go to it. The harder it is to hike in somewhere, the more likely you are to have a peaceful, quiet experience. The easier it is, the more likely you are to have 8,000 people have the same idea you had for the weekend. I gotta get this fly out of here. Come on, you little 8-hole. This way. Oh no! He hit the screen door, flew right back in. Is he gone? Nope. Get out of the corner. There he is. Get out of here. I think I got him out. Anyway, that has been my experience this whole trip, except for Wall Lake, which was an accident. It's quiet right now until the next wave comes. And all of those people you hear, most of them are headed to Clyde Lake. Very few have actually stopped here for very long. So I'm staying put, and I'm going to tough this out and make the very best of it that I can. Even if I just film lunch and dinner and bedtime. I'll try to take a walk around the lake later when it cools off. It's pretty warm, and I'm so tired. I'm so out of it from the lack of sleep and from those kids and from the stress of sleeping in that cave and being on display for everybody. And now I'm stressed from all these people walking by and talking really loud, and I'm just done. I'm tired. I just want to sleep for a couple hours. That would be awesome. But I don't know if it's going to happen. Anyway, that's it for now. Hopefully this gets better. So I think we're in for more of the same weather. I'm seeing a similar thing happen that happened yesterday. We started out with blue skies, and these big puffy white clouds started moving in. And then they started getting darker, and they started joining together, joining forces, and it became one big dark sky. And we ended up with a pretty impressive rain and thunderstorm. It didn't rain hard, but the thunder was amazing, wasn't it? So that's what it's looking like. Off in the distance here, there's just more of the same working its way this way, just like it did yesterday. So these clouds look pretty white and poofy, and then right in the middle they're looking dark and heavy. It's funny that Utah is in, the whole West is in such a massive drought. And yet I was completely stuck in that cave yesterday because it wouldn't quit raining. That's not the only reason I was stuck in there, but let it go, Steve. Anyway, I'm willing to bet we're in for more of the same, only we'll be spending it in our tent while the thunder and rain come. I really wish I'd brought my frog togs, my rain gear. It wouldn't have added much weight at all.
and I could explore even if it's raining. But since I didn't, you know, I back home there's no rain. So I'm only 2 hours from home. I forget that the Uintas have their own weather system. So, unfortunately, I didn't think I should bring some rain gear. I thought it's not gonna rain. And then the Uintas laughed at me. Can't beat that view though. You may have noticed how quiet it's become since my last little segment. There's a fisherman over there, another one over there. Both are being really quiet. The trail, for now, has a gap in people. I'm sure it'll pick up. But for now, I'm just enjoying this peace and quiet. I have just accepted defeat. I am not going to get the kind of solitude or peace and quiet that I wanted up here. That's okay. It's not the last outing of the summer. And the next one, I guarantee I will have that peace and quiet. Right now. That's pretty sweet. Listen. Well, I've lounged about as much as I can. A few small groups have trickled out and trickled in, but nothing as loud as earlier. It's peaceful and quiet enough. I think I'm going to do some exploring. That's, you know, one of the big reasons I come up here is to experience the place, not just be in it. So we'll start over here, I think. I'm really curious. That family that was up here was camped over there, but they were also camped up in there. Even though they were all on this outing together, they camped in very separate places. Probably just a privacy thing. And I think what I want to do is hike up in there and find out where that family was camped. If I ever do come back up here, I want to be away from the trail as much as possible and away from the lake, but still have access without all the noise. So let's say I want to take my two boys, or even all my kids, on a backpacking trip that isn't too strenuous, and I think, Watson Lake. Then I'll already have a site in mind besides right here. This seems like the ideal spot. I even heard a guy walk by go, "Well, that dude has a pretty sweet camping spot. He's got that whole island to himself." Well, yeah, but I also get to hear everything everyone's saying when they walk by, so it's not like I'm in the middle of the ocean. That is almost the only place you can put a tent or hang a hammock. These are too close together, too small, too bushy, I guess. And there is a spot here you could get away with a tent right here, but it's also right where you cross, so I don't know why you would put a tent right here. I don't know. I'm sure someone has at some point. But if you came here with a group thinking you were going to have the island as a group, you're going to be pretty disappointed in how difficult it is to find a spot to put your tent. I only knew that was where the last group had hammocks hanging. Luckily, there was a spot for a tent as well. So let's go over this way and see what we can see before Mother Nature tells us we can't. I'd rather have Mother Nature make the noise than all these people. I don't trust it. Very wobbly. Okay. All right. These wildflowers are beautiful. I don't know how well they show up on camera, but love it. I have been watching some fish jump out here. So it's not very deep, but it does have fish in it. It's beautiful. Of course, we're dealing with reflection from the clouds again. Not quite what I'm seeing with the naked eye. So this is the way we came in. And they were camped somewhere up in there. And my guess is that they knew about that campsite. They knew it was there. I don't think they randomly just traipsed off into the woods, hoping there was something in there. Because if you look, that's all it looks like. Lots of trees and rocks. So I must know, where were they camped? Okay, the lake is back there with its little pond down there. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this is where they were. This isn't bad. Here's the fire ring. You can see that the vegetation's been flattened by a tent. Yep, this is where they were. They must have known about this because you can't readily see it. You have to come up here and look for it. No fires, that's good. You can tell by the footprints in the dirt. I don't think they had a fire at all. So I'm glad somebody's following the rules. I'm not a super anal about the rules, but I don't want to see this place burn, you know? Cliffs up there, pine trees, all the way up to Mount Watson. And by the way, if you're curious about Mount Watson's elevation, I'll put it up on the screen right now. There's a nice little meadow down here. It's kind of out in the open though. Very beautiful. More rolling hills with lots of boulders. I like to think that maybe those cliffs at one time were much taller and that's where all these came from. But I'm sure many of them came from Mount Watson there too. And look at the size of that thing. As big as my freaking house. Anyway, not an awesome site, but definitely a more secluded one. And here I am showing the YouTube world where it is. But, you know, I don't worry too much about that. I think they just had one tent and hung out here as a family. I think they probably had one big tent. I don't know, they backpacked in, but the guy freaking hauled in an air mattress, for heaven's sake. Good to know this is here. That's one thing I've mentioned before on my little outings is I like to explore and find little campsites. Should I return, I want to be able to know what my options are. This is the little pond we passed on the way in. Or if there are fish trapped in here, like maybe they were connected and the fish ended up stuck in here. I don't see anything. They probably just dump the fish in there. Sure, at times with the snow that this is all covered in water, this little peninsula right here. And there's camp. Right there on that island. See my hammock. Just standing here watching the fish jump every once in a while. You can see the ripples in the water where they kind of just skim the surface. Like they just put their little lips up above the water and go after whatever's on the surface. But Typically, if they see a bug actually land on the water, they'll pounce. Which is what fly fishermen rely on, which makes a lot of sense. I want one out there a ways. He came out of the water. I'm surprised nobody's put a fire ring in here, this piece of flat land right off the lake. Seems like they put them everywhere else. So all that's here now, the guy and his significant other fishing over there. They just have day packs on. And a guy way over there has been fishing all morning. I think he's just here to fish. I can see why people fly fish here. The water's not very deep, and they're jumping all over the bugs. And our clouds are doing just what I said they would. That's right over my head. I think I'd better put some gear in the vestibule just in case. I was going to explore over that way, but man, I'm telling you, I am really tired. I did not. Just that sleep last night catching up to me big time. You know, how you behave around other people affects other people. I've perpetrated it and been the victim of it. I have a few stories to share about my youth. I can't entirely fault those kids. Kids are going to do what they're going to do, and sometimes they are very mischievous, and I was one of those. So let's go back to camp. Get some gear under some shelter, and I'll tell you a couple stories about that. Okay, everything's in the vestibule. Basically crammed whatever was left into my pack and stuck it in the vestibule facing the lakeside. And the rest is on this side ready to go in, like food and water. Anyway, so about my youth. I was a very mischievous kid. I've told the story before where I lit a gravel pit on fire. Started a fire with matches while trying to burn grasshoppers with my friend. It was an abandoned gravel pit with lots of sagebrush. And it was about this time of year, July, super hot and dry. Long time ago. If you want to see that, I think I told that story in my Ladyfinger Point campout out on Antelope Island. Anyway, let's see. So thinking about my youth, there are too many stories to put in one video, so back when I was growing up, I still am growing up in many ways, but you didn't go to juvie for the smallest little thing like you do now. You didn't get locked up as a teenager for toilet papering someone's house or get a ticket. You got taken to your parents to deal with. Well, my parents were pretty lax. They knew I crawled in and out of my bedroom window on a regular basis, and they didn't much care to stop me. And the few times I was stopped by a police officer in the middle of the night walking down the road by myself, they just told me to go home. So I did. A couple times I jumped in the window wells of nearby homes when I saw a cop coming. And you wonder about me being in a punk band. I was rebellious, but not to the point of like drinking, doing drugs, that kind of thing. My whole thing was mischief. I would get bored and damage things. So, thinking about scout camps, I went on a lot of scout camps. I was in the Boy Scouts, and our thing used to be, you know, when that kid talked about raiding my tent, he was talking about taking my stuff. But what we would do back in the day is we would raid another scout group's camp. We wouldn't take anything. We would sneak in the middle of the night and pull up their tent stakes and collapse all their tents and then run away. So all their tents would fall down on top of them in the middle of the night. It was kind of stupid looking back, I realize. that they knew where we were camped. So sure enough, later that night, their tents were all back up and ours were all down on the ground. So turnabout's fair play. It was sort of a healthy competition thing. But I'll tell you what, when you're tired, there's nothing worse than having to set up your tent at 3 a.m. when it was already set up in the first place. That's pretty mild. What I did on my own was not so mild. And the incident that comes to mind happened when I was 16 years old. I had a 14-year-old girlfriend, which is insane to think about now. Like, as an adult, if a girl is a couple years younger than you, it's no big deal. But if you're 16, old enough to drive, and you're dating a junior high girl, that's creepy. But back then, again, it wasn't looked at the same way as it is now. You know, our parents let us see each other. There was nothing inappropriate going on in this relationship. In fact, she was my very first steady girlfriend, a girl named Marilee. I won't give a last name because she's still out there. And Marilee's family had lots of money and were pretty wealthy. They lived in the same neighborhood I did, but my parents were, you know, not well off at all. We would barely make ends meet while they were thriving, let's put it that way. Anyway, I was crazy about my new girlfriend. She agreed to go steady with me, and I think I hung out with her exactly twice. I don't know if your relationships were like this back then, but they were pretty retarded compared to an appropriate, mature relationship. So basically, she had this friend who lived across the street from her, this spoiled rich girl, the Rachel Green of the neighborhood, let's say. Spoiled rich girl. If you watch Friends, you know what I mean. Only way less likable. Her name was Tiffany. And Tiffany did not like that I was dating Marilee. And they were best friends. And they lived right across the street from each other. And Tiffany had this habit of trying to break us up all the time. Consistently trying to get us to break up, trying to talk her into it. She even called me once and said, "Why are you going steady with her? Why don't you just dump her? You're too old for her. It's too weird." So, me being 16 and not, you know, mature at all. In fact, that was the year I started my punk band. I decided that Tiffany needed to be taught a lesson. My mom had in her garage a box of apples. A very old box of apples. She'd bought them and put them in the garage and forgot about them. This was probably end of summer, early autumn, that's my guess, if I'm thinking right. It may have even been colder than that, but the apples had rotted heavily. They were just a box of mushy, gross apples. They were whole still, but if you squeezed them at all, they would just like applesauce. And she had yet to throw them away, and my buddy Derek and I, the same one I lit the gravel pit on fire with, he spent the night at my house, and I said, "Let's get Tiffany back. I have the perfect solution." We got this box of rotten apples, we got cans of shaving cream, we got toilet paper. Seemed like there was another element involved, but I don't remember it now. But we hoofed it all the way down the street over to Tiffany's house at 2:30 in the morning and opened the box of apples. I squished several of them inside the mailbox. I was stomping them. I dumped them all over the driveway, all over their walkway from their front porch, all over the front yard in the grass. And after I dumped them, I started just stomping them. And my buddy Derek was busy writing swear words on her driveway in shaving cream. So we got the toilet paper up, we got the apples all smushed, and my buddy was in the middle of writing a specific phrase to her, and making sure it was spelled correctly when the lights came on. The porch lights came on and the door flew open. And this man yelled, "Hey, you little..." I don't want to swear. There might be kids watching my video. But he yelled at us. And I was so focused on smashing those apples and getting the toilet paper spread that it didn't even click. And my buddy Derek just yelled, "Dude, run!" And he took off. And I'm standing there with apples in my hand going, "What?" And then I look and there's this guy running right for me, full bore. I threw everything down and I just took off, and I caught up to my buddy Derek, and we were both just booking it down this dark street in the middle of the night, and you could hear this guy gaining on us. I remember he was wearing an old-fashioned, like, instead of regular pajamas, he was wearing like a gown, a nightgown for men. I don't know. I just remember he was wearing that. And I had never seen Tiffany's dad. He was a little skinny man, but that made him fast too. So he was gaining on us. You could hear his bare feet, you know, doing that all the way down the street behind us. We could hear him gaining on us. And we turned this corner and my buddy goes, "Dive under this truck." There was a Toyota parked right there on the street, and we couldn't get away from him. There was no way. So we just dove under this truck and we just laid there, and we were so out of breath. We were laying under this truck just well, meanwhile this guy's coming up the road. We can hear his feet. He's like, "Come back here, you little a-holes," you know. Anyway, he didn't get a good look at us, thank goodness. But as he walked by the truck, we had to hold our breath. And holding your breath when you're already out of breath is extremely difficult to do. So we're laying there under the truck going, trying not to breathe. And he stopped right next to the truck and looked around the whole area. And then he just yelled, "I'll get you, you little so-and-sos." And he starts marching back to his house. And we waited until we couldn't hear him anymore or see him anymore. We could see under the truck, we could see his feet. So we made sure he actually left and wasn't trying to trick us. And he disappeared. And later, probably 2 years later, I was out for a walk at night and I ran into a different neighbor, really friendly guy that, you know, went to my church with me, and he was super friendly. I stopped and talked to him, and he brought up that same neighbor. He didn't bring up the incident, but he brought him up. He's like, "Oh yeah, and this other guy, Tiffany's dad, I didn't know him from Adam, you know, or appreciate the fact that I just vandalized his yard. I was just getting Tiffany back, you know. What more was there to it?" That's as far as my brain could operate at the time. So, you know, I mentioned to this other neighbor, I said, "Oh yeah, a couple years back, me and my buddy, we totally smashed apples all over their driveway and you know, shaving cream." And the neighbor goes, "That was you guys? He's still looking for you. He is pissed." I said, "You're not going to tell him, are you?" Luckily, I was good enough friends with this guy. He's like, "I won't tell him, but if he finds out, I'm not stopping him." He never found out. That was one incident. And then I got chased by a lot of friends, a lot of people's dads. They didn't like me. I don't blame them. That's pretty mild compared to some of the things I did. I'll tell other stories another time, but these kids throwing rocks and targeting my camp is pretty normal behavior to me. What ticked me off is that I was just up here to relax and get some sleep and get away from my troubles and my worries, and those kids made that impossible. But there is a soft spot in my heart for them, because what they're doing now is not the person they are when they're 25 years old. It's they were bored, they were at camp, they were unsupervised, and they took off and did something mischievous. They didn't harm me, but they woke me up and they harassed me, and so I chased after them. And it occurred to me last night that I'm Tiffany's dad now. I'm chasing the 14-year-old kids who were being mischievous little brats. kind of funny. So there is light in all of this. Those are my stories of juvenile delinquency for this trip. I'll save some more colorful ones for the future. They got much worse, trust me. Felonious. But I never got caught by the police. So sometimes I wrote songs about it.